Garth, otherwise known as Big G.
My name is
Garth, otherwise known as Big G.
My name is Richie Blackford.
Mrs. Griffiths would have been very proud of our daughter, Marcia, even though she reluctantly allowed her into the music business. Marcia, when?
Yeah. All we need to do is to recognize that if we put investment in, we are revitalizing communities. How we deal with small man, and so the sound system started to come up. The sound system was the small man entertainment. And
Inimitable. Toots. Mr. Frederick Hibbert himself. And the Maytals.
This was a big song, God. Big song for many small. In fact, Prince Buster had his imprint all over it. You know?
Sundays come here.
It's another Sunday. It's another Sunday. You know, one of the things I've been looking at is I realize that when you do something quite often, there are certain things that you say repeatedly. Like, you know, off the cuff comments like, yes, sir.
There you go.
And the thing about it, or it's interesting, you know. But it's a Sunday, and if it's another Sunday, it's Sunday Scoops.
There you go.
Welcome to our listeners to the 17th day of May on 2020, the year of perfect vision.
I don't know about the perfect vision part, but theoretically it sounds good. We have been doing this Sunday Scoop show now for this is
14 weeks.
14th week. And I would like to think that we have made an impact on the audience that we have been trying to support.
Yes.
I think we have seen some climbing in the audiences. We've been getting inquiries from outside for people who want to carry the show as well. So clearly, we must be doing something right.
I think we are. I think we definitely are doing something that.
What I would like to say to our viewers and listeners out there is that if it is Sunday and if it's 2 o'clock, it is Sunday Scoop time.
Yes, and we have
we have a nice show lineup for you guys today. So get your favorite beverage or your favorite whatever you want to drink and put your feet up. Or if you want to drop some legs, because we gonna give you some music to drop legs by today.
Definitely.
Who are featured today, God?
Featuring the mighty Heptones.
There you go.
I know when I said mighty, people probably think diamonds. No. As we've been advertising all week, the Heptones, featuring Barry Llewellyn, Leroy Sibbles, the bassman. And a lot of people think Leroy, for quite a few years, I thought Leroy was only a bass player or a singer. Didn't know he was a bass player, but yes, he plays bass and was a part of the musical direction team at Studio One.
I want to talk about that because that is a significant part of the role that the Heptones as a group and Leroy Sibbles as an individual had on the music at the time.
Yes.
But we're gonna get cracking. We have a feast of music lineup, and we wanna welcome everybody from everywhere.
Yes.
Tell your friends.
And if you've, please share. We're also available, not just on Facebook Live, but we're also available at mixlr.com/old school rules. It's just audio, no video. And if you want the full gamut we're at um, yardmedia.com, and it's YAAWDMEDIA.com. And that's where we are today. And Richard, over the past 14 weeks, we've gone through the women of reggae. We've looked at the Wailers. We've looked at Dennis Brown, John Holt, Horace Andy, Slim Smith, Millie Small. We touched a little piece of her, Gregory Isaacs, um, Don Drummond, Prince Buster. We've gone through the evolution of reggae as that's come up through the years, from blues, shuffle, boogie into ska, rocksteady, and we've played some reggae music. As a matter of fact, we even played as far as into the 2000s, or presently in the late second decade of the new millennium, um, up as far as coffee. And we've shown that the music has evolved in so many different ways. We have dancehall, we have raga, we have reggae, we have so many different expressions of the music. Even now you have, well, we had dub. That's where the whole dubstep thing came from, or or as the white rock groups would want to call it, drum and bass.
Drum and bass is right.
Yes.
But I think the point you're making, if I may just interject, is what we have attempted over the last 13 weeks and will continue today is to lay out the run of Jamaican music in terms of how it has developed. I, I have to confess that from time to time we are going to revisit some of the other areas that we have touched on already because the music is fluid.
It is dynamic, and that's
And
one of the reasons why reggae music has been so successful, because of how organic it has been, because it never had the restrictions of, like, say, sheet music and all of that. It's so the players of instruments and the singers and the producers, they had full creativity, unfettered creativity.
I want us to spend a little time on that. But just so that the listeners and the viewers out there know it last I wonder if we're having a debated contest. I think what we want to do is let's get the ball rolling with an early Heptones, and then we want to talk about how the Heptones came into being, if you will.
Yes.
And their earliest recorded work was a tune called Gunman Coming to Town. And for those of you who are just joining, this is Sunday Scoops, and today we're featuring music of the Heptones. Here's the first early recorded work of the group, the Heptones, Gunman Coming to Town.
I was going down the street. I saw a lot of men, some were bare feet. They were gunmen coming to town. Coming to town. Gunmen coming to town. Some had the wretched knives. They were trying to take my life. They were gunmen coming to town. They got out some 44 and they stood before Woolworth store. They were coming to town. Gunmen coming to
And before you even say anything, Richard, what I want to point out is just how in touch Jamaicans were with pop culture, because this clearly is, the horn section is from the theme song to that TV show Bonanza. And if you had a fear of TV back in the days, those were prominent shows on TV. and they incorporated, and we also see that with a couple more songs that are going to be played with the Heptones, with using music from movies or theme songs from TV shows to build music around original songs.
And you're right. But I want us to focus on, if you go back to the lyrics of that song. It's an early song. It was produced for producer Ken Lack. Didn't go anywhere, and in fact, it almost kind of turned them off from the recorded music business because, like most youngsters, they expected that the first effort being on wax, that it would have got somewhere, and it did. But essentially, what that tune was doing was picking up what was happening in Kingston, Jamaica at the time.
Yep.
It was
Politically.
the whole thing about gunman coming to town was a sort of a uploading, if you will, on the badman culture that had basically become
Started
reposited
permeating. Yes.
in the country in that late 1950s, early to mid 1960s. Whereas in those periods, it would have been the bad man with him switchblade knife, not even ratchet knife. Ratchet knife came afterwards. It was switchblade knife, man. It was buckle flinging and sword flinging.
Machete.
Well, machete was a little bit to the extreme. It was mostly switchblade for close fighting. A man pull the switchblade and flick the blade and stab you with it. But what Heptones was picking up here was the uploading of the badman thing away from the stone and buckle and knife to gun business, right? And they were talking about the badman who was primarily downtown Kingston that was operating within that the grass yard where the market, the coal market used to be, Coronation Market. You had a couple of political badman that they clown around that area and talk about Woolworths, which was downtown Kingston, and how the man them get up on King Street and thing. But to give you a little feel of where Heptones come from, the group actually came together in the early.
Right, that's what I was about to say. Who are the Heptones?
Yeah, they came together as some little 13, 14, 15-year-old youngsters who lived essentially within that Trenchtown, West Kingston community. And one of the features of that period, late 1950s, early 1960s period, was that every little youth wanted to be a singer. Because what they were looking at is they were seeing the Beer John's opportunity singing competition and the festival competition, which would have come out in the 1963-64 period. And so all of them youth wanted to be a singer. Initially, it started out with about 5 or 6 of them, right? Some of them go senior school, some go primary school, but they would gather on the corner every evening after school and practice them like a singing thing.
Right.
And then enter what they would call community singing contests. And so as they did well with the community singing contest, they considered entering the bigger contest.
And also we should also point out that the average Jamaican school during the year has at some point or other variety shows that goes on, and which encourages talent from the community to participate in plays, singing, and it wasn't competitions, but it was a means of entertainment for fundraising for the school and also for various projects. So that also honed the talents at the time.
But the crux of the exposure came through the organized talent shows. And so all these little youngsters were looking to get on this bandwagon, if you will. And as I said, there were about 5 or 6 of them. In fact, Glenn Adams, who played the organ, who was the man who played on the Wailers with Scratch Perry, that Dopey Conqueror thing. Glenn Adams was part of this group.
Yeah, he went to the left and went to England, and
He left and went with the Pioneers. He said that there was a point at which
the
so
Heptones
many of
split.
them, the group split, and so they formed one group called the Pioneers, and these guys went up. Sybil's, what name?
Leroy Sibbles, Barry Llewellyn,
and
Glenn
Morgan, Earl
Campbell,
Morgan.
and Earl Morgan.
Yeah, they formed a group called the Hep Ones, and people wonder what the hell is Hep Ones. According to the Dog newspaper, they must say a bottle of Heptones tonic wine. Remember that? Too
Heptonic
young to
wine.
remember, right?
No, I don't know about Sputnik.
Yeah, Sputnik thing, but they saw this bottle. Morgan, who is the one who renamed the group the Heptones after the Heptones tonic. But they moved quickly after the Kenlock experiment never worked. They went to Coxon. And Coxon wasn't particularly happy with them either, because Coxon figured that okay, them not sound bad, whatever. Anyway, they did Coxon's Sunday, the Sunday audition,
Right.
and out of that came another tune on the Coxon's label, "The Best Things in Life," and we want to give the listeners a taste again of Heptones at Studio One, Coxon's recording studio it would have been at the time. Here is "The Best Things in Life." While they try to find the tune.
No, I find the tune. Just never turn up the volume.
Best Things in Life.
Each day he gives us the rising sun. You don't have to buy yourself sunlight or the moon and stars that guides our way at night. So the best things in life for free. So the best things in life for free. Oh, the good Lord put each man in this world, and He provides for each one of us a girl. You don't have to buy yourself a girl. You just go out and choose one from this world. I said the best thing in life's for free. The best things in life's for free.
Best things in life are free.
You're so right about that. A lot of people joining. Just want to welcome everybody joining Sunday Scoops this afternoon. And if you weren't aware, we're featuring the mighty Heptones.
Yes.
Now, just to, again, flashback a little bit. The first tune, Gunman Coming to Town, you got a taste of a little bit of ska and a little bit of blues. Because by this 1965, when that first tune was released, the music was still transitioning, right? Now, the best things in life was the music still shifting a little bit from ska into what would now become rocksteady. The Heptones had a significant ability to sort of lay the foundation of where the music was going. If you looked at their approach to the singing style, that bouncing harmony, where they bounced from one off the other, what it did is that it allowed the music to slow down, and they became very good at laying that rock steady foundation, a foundation that they also transposed into reggae, or what would become reggae within a few years. Now, the best things in life, it was not a tremendous success.
No, it wasn't.
But Coxsone liked the sound that he was getting. And so Coxsone offered them a contract. And they signed with Coxsone. It would have been for, I think it's like 4 or 5 years. And coming off the experience that they gained of the best things in life, they then hit the street with what was one of the biggest tunes of 1966, 1967, Fatty Fatty, right? I want us to give the listeners a taste of Fatty Fatty, which, again, this was a big tune for a group that had not really had any
They've had
big
any
success.
any
Right.
success at this time.
And so this would now put them on the map as a group.
And the story behind this is that Leroy Sibbles was sitting on the
I
wall.
want to hear the story. But let's get the listeners.
All right.
Fatty Fatty.
I need a fat girl. Fat girl tonight. I need a very, very fat girl. Fat girl tonight. I'm in the mood, girl. I'm in the mood. I need some food, some food. Oh, I need some food. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I said no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. I said no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. Girl, I know you want it. I said you want it tonight. And you're gonna get a lot of it. Get it tonight. Oh, get it, galore, girl. Get it, galore. You won't want no more, no more.
No, just to give the listeners, because I know that's what you're trying to pull out, God. The story behind Fatty Fatty. Now, Leroy Sibbles considered himself, without any doubt, as the man who, the writer, the songwriter, musical arranger. And over time, you couldn't question his ability or his talent, right? But Sibbles would have been about 19 years old. And he said he was at home one afternoon, and he saw this lady coming on the road, nice big woman, and she round, to use in term. So she round,
Rotund.
look good. So she wasn't a young woman.
Gordita.
So it wasn't like he was lusting after her, but him just real. Him said Jamaica man like woman with meat on it. And here was this woman coming into his orbit, and it's out of just watching her walk down the street, the song just flowed, and he, next thing, hurry up down to the studio, put the lyrics together, and there you have Fatty Fatty.
Fatty Fatty.
Now
This song today, I can drop this in a party and it's just.
Remember, this is 1967 in Uganda. So
66, 67.
if you can imagine the impact that this
54
song
years
has
later.
Had. 54 years later, the song's still wicked. In fact, the song became a #1 tune for Coxsone. It stayed on the charts for almost forever. And it also, couldn't be played on the radio. I think, they made a couple of attempts to get it played, but it was deemed as a risque tune. And so, out of which the radio stations banned it. But be that as it may, the song did that well that it literally opened the door now. And you know my favorite term, I always tell it, Jamaica man, kick down the door, right? Heptones, as it were, with Fatty Fatty, literally kick down the door. Behind that, they follow that up with a number of hits. and we're gonna sample a couple of those songs today, beginning with "Pretty Looks" because it's Paula natural. The woman nice and round and fat, look good, but at the same time, pretty looks is not all. Here is the Heptones with Pretty Looks. And if you're just joining us and it's Sunday, this is Sunday Scoops. Just wanna take the time out and the time to reach out to all those people who are joining us. Wanna say a special hello to Charlotte Grant. Wanna welcome as well Jules, Lamond, Doc, um,
Paul Anthony, reggae man,
Paul Reed,
big singer,
Bradford Young,
a big singer friend,
big
Hal
singer Al
Anthony.
Anthony.
Yeah, man,
There you
respect.
go. But let's give a listen.
I lost my baby, but she's coming back. Yeah, she wrote a letter stated she needs me badly, and if she comes home, I'll have a precious time, precious time. My little honey said her new guy treats her badly. It seems to me it's pretty looks he hypnotize her. All I can say, pretty looks isn't all, isn't all.
Yes, God. Big tune. Big tune. Now, by the time the Heptones had now hit the road with this big box of hits, they were now competing with the Techniques, who was over by Dupree.
And Slim Smith.
And of course, Slim Smith is shuffling from end to end as a solo vocalist, um, working out with the Techniques. But the competition for the Heptones was the Techniques.
Techniques.
And
Yep.
they gave the Techniques a run for the money. In fact, the scribes who follow the music, I don't know, people like Garfield Maloney, who just joined the stream, will agree with me. I would think that they nosed ahead of the Techniques by the time this group of songs that they have been putting out there. Why not just again use the opportunity to welcome people like Garfield Maloney, Doc Jules, Judy Brown. Well, we can't do without Judy, no matter what happens. And all of our listeners who are joining us from all over the place.
Yeah, man, I have a brethren, Jacob Brown, all the way in Saudi Arabia.
He is with us almost every Sunday.
Yes.
You see the power of the media. When we're talking about Jamaican music, if you really want to know,
We're talking about Jamaicans, them all over the place. Man in Saudi Arabia.
The truth is, it speaks to the value of what we're doing as well, because we're laying the stories behind the music, and we're talking about not just music. We're not just playing music on the program, but we want to educate people as to where the music is coming from. A couple of other tunes, Get in the Groove, Be a Man. We're gonna run a couple of these tunes simultaneously, just to give people a taste of the catalog of Heptones music coming out of the 1960s.
So here's Get in the Groove.
Get it.
Music, it's so divine. It's yours and it's mine. Come on and sing with me.
music is so divine. I remember this tune because you know, coming out of that era with my little sound from Harlem, brute force and ignorance. BFI, and I want to big up Miguel Roper and Norman Marsh from Cool FM. Those Eyes and Chuck, those were the aficionados, if you will.
Your sparring partners.
Yes, and the brains behind. Also, Colonel Oscar Darby. Don't know a darn thing about music, but you couldn't tell him that at the time. Again, we are featuring the music of the Heptones. Want to also give a big shout out to Derek Dodd. Derek Dodd is a regular, loyal listener with Sunday Scoops and have to pay our respects. Next tune we have lined up on the turntable, Mr. Gart, is what you play? Be a Man.
Be a Man. That song came out in 1970. And here's the Heptones with Be a Man.
Our forefathers worked the fields in burning sun, faced with and strain. But we are sad to say we won't do it again. 'Cause now that we've realized that oh so long we've been hypnotized, we suffer day and night, but still stand upright. Yes, my skin is black, so when you see me come, you can't turn your back. You ain't gonna be, no, you'll never be a man like me. Oh, yeah. Yes, my skin is black, so when you see me come, you can't turn your back. You ain't gonna be, no, you'll never be a man like me.
Yeah, and that song can be found on the Sea of Love album.
Yeah,
Came out in 1970. I must also point out to the listeners that sometimes sourcing these music, if you get it on vinyl, you're not quite sure what the quality is going to be. And sometimes, even when you get it off of iTunes, the quality isn't that great because we're not a country, or the producers are not notorious for proper archiving. So
that is true. That is true.
I
In
can
fact,
tell
it's
you.
a common thing that a lot of these tapes they taped over the tapes. You imagine,
Yes.
you know,
The,
crazy. But our job is to try to bring the information, you know, that surrounds the music to the viewers, the listeners, and to provide some education, if you will. Now, around this time, Sibbles had demonstrated his abilities significantly at Studio One. In fact, he became a big part of the Studio One setup. He played the bass. In fact, um, when Coxon is setting up his operation, Coxon had made a lot of investment in terms of equipment and so on. Jackie Mitu was a key man in the studio setup. In fact, he was responsible for the musical arrangement, and it was he who identified to Coxon that Sibbles was a pretty good guitar player, and particularly a
Bass.
bass player. And so, as a consequence of which, Sibbles started to not only provide a role as a singer with the Heptones, but he was also the
part of
bass
the
player
backing studio band,
in the backing studio.
and back in the days as a musician was a very good as a journeyman in the studio was a very good way to make a living by playing part of the backing band in a studio. And then Leroy Sibbles' contribution as to the bass line and the bass line is very central in any reggae song, whether it's rock steady, but more pronounced in reggae music, where the bass line is almost like the center of where the music emanated or how the music is laid.
Right. Sibbles capitalized on that because what he did is that he also played the piano. He also played the organ. Now, what Sibbles also recognized is that as the music transitioned away from rocksteady into reggae, a lot of reggae music could do without the organ, but it can't do without the bass, right? It can do without the horns, it can do without the organ, can't do without the bass. So by
Drum and
becoming the
bass.
bass player, what he did is that he entrenched himself in the Studio One outfit. He played on some of the most seminal tunes to come out of Studio One. You know, my biggest tune is Sata Massacre.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
if that thunderous bass that became that tune is synonymous with Leroy Sibbles. And then if you listen to the musical arrangement, because Sibbles would tell you when these people come to the studio, he was a talent scout. So not only was he the bass player, he was the man who conducted the early part of the auditions. He still
So you had to
determined
get past him.
you had to write. And he said a lot of these guys would come, them have a few lines of a song, and would listen to it and tell them, all right, tell you what, go finish write the song and come back. Or if he thought that the song was complete enough, he would know. So the thing with reggae music is that a lot of it follow the same plane.
Same
So
progression.
if you understand that the progression is similar, it's easy to fit it in.
Yeah, and for those of us, well, not sure about the listeners, but reggae music in most cases is three chords, three chord progression,
Right.
CDG or CEF, and sometimes only two chords. It's just a chop, 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 and that's it. It's one of the most simplistic music, but with the accompaniment of the percussions and all the other various instruments, and with the voice, you get a nice music that has
And
conquered the planet.
if you know what you're doing, which is what Coxon had over
Yes.
most of the other producers. But let's give the listeners a taste of another big tune. Where you have Sea of Love.
Oh man. Song done by Phil Phillips and the Twilights, but made popular in 1984 by the Honey Drippers in a part of a soundtrack for that movie. But
You want to know anything about music? Sunday Scoops.
yeah,
Sunday
man, this
Scoops.
song was
Sunday Scoops.
a big hit. Sea of Love. And then this rhythm now for Sea of Love. Big song with Berissa, man. No Goodbye. Like, breathe new ear in the rhythm again.
Come with me, my love, to the sea of love. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Do you remember the time we met? That's a day I know I won't forget. I wanna tell you how much I love you.
All I'm full of today.
Come.
All I'm full of. You can't, we can't play this tune. As a young boy, the dance hall at the time, God, one of the line you hear from the DJ, when the music is nice, you gotta play it
Gotta play it
twice.
twice.
And this is a nice tune. Listen to the melody, listen to the arrangement. When we talk about, you know, a man like Leroy Sibbles, who he's a musical arranger.
Along
Between
with Jackie
himself
Mitchell.
and Jackie Mitchell, they are the ones who arrange this tune. And you get a feel. Remember, this is a local tune that we take from somewhere else and made it our own.
Yes.
Sea of Love, the Heptones.
From the top. And once again, big up to DMR.
Yes.
Thanks for producing the technical things,
Also want to big up the friend, Dr. Smith, who's joining us from all the way out of Pennsylvania there. Welcome, Dr. Smith. Let's go. No, God, no, God. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have to big up the friend, Dr. Jones as well. Dr. Jones, this was dedicated to you. Come with me to the sea of love.
Come with me, my love, to the sea of love. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Do you remember the time we met? That's a day I know I won't forget. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Come with me to the sea of love.
Yes. Sea of Love.
And if you're just joining us, you're in tune to Sunday Scoops, where today we're featuring the music of the Heptones. Again, just want to welcome all the viewers and listeners joining us from all over the world.
Yeah, man,
We
and
can
I also big up to those who are listening on Old School Rules on Mixlr.com. Big up Dimitri from Paris. Also, right after Sunday Scoops, you're going to have Carl Hitman Marshall and his show right afterwards, and after that is DJ Migraine. Big up to all the listeners who are listening in Old School Rules on Mixlr.com. Yes, sir. And the next song that we have on the
another big
turntable is,
Baby
oh
True.
my God, this is like a big monster song. Baby Be True. Heptones, mighty Heptones.
Baby, be true, and I'll give the word to you. I mean it, baby. Oh, babe, treat me right, and I'll love you day and night. I mean it, baby. Oh, babe, I'll give the word to you. Now, babe, I'll do what you have me to. Now, babe, I mean it, baby. Oh, babe, when you're down, I'll be around to guide you, baby. Oh, babe, when you're free, just call on me. I'll be your baby. Oh, babe, I'll give my heart to you. Now, babe, I'll do what you have me to. Now, babe, I mean it, baby.
Yeah,
Baby
this
Be
is
True.
Heptones, when the Heptones basically turned Studio One in what we could easily call the hit factory of
Yes.
the late 1960s. Because almost everything that Heptones touch, and you know
Turn to
Coxon.
gold.
Coxon is a
Yes.
man who, once him find a formula that work,
Yep. Yes.
he gonna
Yeah.
ream it all the way through. You imagine true like that. Let's give a listen to Ting-a-ling, again, coming out of Coxon's stable. And this is young Heptones. Most of these guys wouldn't have been more than about 18, 19
19.
years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to give an idea of the quality of the vocal works that they were producing. Also, it also gives you an indication of the talent that was Leroy Simmons. And, you know, we can argue, about some of the other aspects of him. But the one thing you cannot question was his immense talent and understanding for Jamaican music. Ting-a-ling. by the Heptones.
Ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling. Oh, what can I do? In my heart, girl, I know that I'm losing you. And I don't wanna cry, baby. I don't wanna cry for you, my baby. I don't wanna cry for you, yeah. I don't wanna cry, baby. I don't wanna cry. Oh no, I don't wanna. And I don't wanna cry, baby.
Now, this is a song which had new life in 1979 by the Tamlins, produced by the Rhythm Kings,
Sly and
Sly
Robbie.
and Robbie. The Tamlins redid this song. Monster Monster hit for them too in 1979.
The Heptones followed this up. Again, this was the Hit Factory, the Coxon studio at the time. And everything that Heptones touched was gold. Party Time was another big tune. You couldn't go anywhere within that 1968, 1972, 73 period where this song wasn't tearing down the place. And Party Time was as big as they come.
You,
Give a
you, you
listen.
you know what I like about the early part of Jamaica before dancehall hit, or later dancehall, and that has even happened to pop R&B and that kind of music, is the artists and the musicians created music. The DJs took the music and played it in such a way. I mean, if a song is a good song, it will hit, regardless. But the point I'm making is that the songs were created, DJs listen to it and say, yo, this is a nice party tune. Now the producers are making songs to party to. So it almost like defeats the whole discovering process for the music. The music is forced upon you now. So this is a song to be enjoyed at party. So the discovery process is taken out of it, and it really killed the industry. But here's Party Time by the Heptones.
We're having a party tonight. We everything will be alright. Come on, everyone. It's time that we should have some fun. We've got to live some life before we're old.
You know something, God? I think I think we're gonna have to rechristen this show. Because a while ago I thought you was gonna preach a sermon. It
But
is Sunday. And it
Sunday
is Sunday,
Scoops.
it is Sunday
Welcome if
school.
you're listening. All the brethren them who have joined in, I've named you individually. Thank you again to Oliver Brown and his wonderful
And
wife for
Judy.
producing the show, doing all the technical works. We're broadcasting, they're in a total different section. So sometimes you might hear the song drag a little bit. It's not our fault, it's technology. But sooner or later, we'll be back in the same space again and, you can enjoy. But back from the
But no,
top.
no, no, hold on. You're not getting nowhere with that. Because you come here with the preaching thing.
you know, you
I
know.
hold on, man. Because at first I thought it's a Bible. I look to see a drought. Because the man put on a proper preaching.
Yeah, man, the
But
music, the man, them
me
killing the
understand how you
music.
feel.
But
Because I agree.
but you know what I want to also point out is how much of a fashionista the Heptones are. One of the pictures that is being broadcasted. You see the boot where have Leroy Sibbles of Van
Yo,
Brethren?
you know, get to it to
The
that.
boot. Yo.
It's
And
not,
yo, the
God,
boot.
God is not
The
put
boot
get
the
up
wicked.
there.
And thing there when me and Morgan in the middle
Morgan,
with yo with the wallaby.
listen,
Listen, the
listen.
Jamaican sense of fashion must not, even with Shabba Ranks when he came out, unprecedented. But look at Leroy Sibbles' boot. And you know who's a big boot wearer too? Bob Marley. Party time.
We're having a party tonight. We everything will be alright. Come on, everyone. It's time that we should have some fun. We've got to live some life before we're old. We've got to live some life before we're cold. Time is short, so here we play. Let's live a life as we can. Don't try to work yourself away. Remember, there's another day. We got to live some life before we're old.
Yeah, man, we got to live some life before we grow old.
You know, it's when you consider the circumstances that enough people are under right now with this virus thing and all of that. You just never know when is your time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's incumbent that we all take the time and enjoy what we have because the
Definitely,
next moment is not
definitely,
promised.
definitely.
And you know, when you listen to music like this, it gives you a sense of the kind of value, the even beyond that, where we come from as Jamaicans when the 1960s, late 1960s, early 1970s, it was a different country. It was much more peaceful.
Innocent.
People were kind to each other, and we celebrated every little opportunity that we got.
I can tell you too, late 60s, early 70s, one of the things I remember most fondly growing up again in rural Jamaica is you leave your house and the house door open and nobody goes into your house. Not even the dog. Not even the dog.
Not a big tune. I got the hand.
No, I love this song, but I don't love this song. And the reason why I say that is that this song, the lyrics, is almost hinging on misogyny, domestic abuse.
Hold on. Stop. Again, I'm going to get a Bible for you because this preaching thing,
I've got the handle, baby. You've got the blade.
Yes, it's true.
And if you don't do whatever, you'll need first aid.
These are some little young boys at 18, 19 years old.
You're under my jurisdiction.
That's what they grew up and that's what they knew. Listen, my old man used to put on licks for me for the slightest little thing. And guess what? It took me quite a while to realize that it's not that him wicked enough. This was what he knew. And so these youngsters were essentially putting to music the experiences that they saw around. It was a common thing during that period for man beat up woman. And this was how they figured that you keep women subservient. You want to take the song out of context. The reality is a nice tune.
Yeah, it's a nice tune. And right now we have the hunger, so I'm play the tune.
Yes. Well, you have the hunger. I got the blade. The Heptones.
You've got the blade. Don't Don't try to fight nothing, cause you'll need first aid. When I wake up in the morning, fix me some orange juice. When I come home in the evening, just put yourself to use, cause I've got the handle, baby. You've got the blade. Don't try to fight nothing, cause you need first aid. Yeah.
You know, before you play the next tune, one of the beauty of reggae music is we were no longer beholden to putting on music that followed the lines of what we had grown up listening to in the 1950s, 1960s period. It was a point at which Jamaicans now own this music and
Yes.
realize
Yeah, man.
that in the same way these guys in North America or England were singing about their experiences,
We
we can
had to
sing
sing
about
about our
our own
experiences.
experiences too. And so you're getting music that is influenced by the
Social
social
circumstance,
under which
the
these
community
people were living.
circumstance, political
It
circumstance.
was politics, social, yeah, and the economics.
Yes.
And people were fighting an everyday struggle.
Yo, tenement yard.
There you go. I
You
never
could you
grew up
could literally you could literally take a bench and sit down and just
and you
watch the
watch
cascades
stories
for the
unfold.
day.
Absolutely. One standpipe for everybody thing. I used to go visit my auntie in Jonestown, and the yard was 51 Penn Street rather. And you had about one, two, three, four buildings in the yard. There were about 30 people who lived there. And the place had a big kitchen and you had a
One
double
bathroom.
shower, right? Two people could have bathed kind of that thing. But you literally have to book your shower, right? And then as for the toilet, similar. So life within those communities,
Communal living.
it
It
is
was real
communal living.
communal living.
And that is what these guys are singing about, their experiences. That's why I said, we can, in 2020 eyes,
Yeah.
we can
Look back and
look
say
back and
what it
we
is.
level the criticisms. But the bottom line is, Farmer George make the point. He said my house was a bamboo was beside a bamboo land, and he grew up listening to these kind of songs. Wanna welcome Anif Budai, Prof from Baltar, a Camperdown General, Ball General, match them and turn match General now. But I want to welcome him. Also want to welcome again Farmer George, Derek Dodd. These guys, they don't leave us.
Yes.
But
and also big up to the listeners over in Old School Rules.
absolutely.
And we're also encouraging you to check out yardmedia.com and also look at some of the merchandise we have there from Yard Abroad, a collection of yours truly, Richard Blackford over here.
We're gonna spend a little time talking about all of that. But again, we're looking at the influence of Coxsone on the music, and this is Coxsone laying the foundation for the Heptones, if you will, turning them into away from being just a group of youngsters
into stars.
Superstars. Well, they turned them into stars who later became superstars. If it's Sunday, you're listening to Sunday Scoops. Over to you. You have the hanger. You just tell me. I have the blade.
But we're not going to fight. We're not going to fight. So we're not going to fight. So we're just going to listen to the music.
Again, you're in tune to Sunday Scoops, and if you're just joining us, we are featuring the music of the fabulous Heptones. Again, want to welcome my good friend Farmer George, and I also want to take the opportunity to encourage you to visit yardmedia.com, our website, and take a look at our merchandise. The Heptones, Big G, are the wheels of steel. hear nothing.
Nothing at all.
You know, we're having a little bit of a technical glitch here. But in the interim, let me just take a little step back. Now, we talked about Leroy Sibbles and his role. Sibbles felt, and within a matter of months after this, Sibbles was now looking out of Studio One, looking away from Coxsone, because almost every music that came from Studio One during this era, in fact, Coxsone had taken a sort of a back seat as far as the production of music was concerned at Studio One.
Right.
And Sibbles became perhaps the most important person at Studio One by this time. The view was that he subsequently left Studio One because of money issues. But my sense was that he figured that he wasn't getting the kind of recognition that he deserved. A lot of what was produced, in fact, it was Leroy Sibbles who discovered people like Horace Sandy. It was Leroy Sibbles who discovered a lot of the vocal talent that came up, particularly in this between 1968 1970 at Studio One. And he felt that for the effort that he was putting in, he wasn't getting enough. And over time, he would now start to make his way out of Studio One. But let's get back to the...
Still have to explain to us about technical.
We have a little bit of technical issues that we're trying to work around here. But again, during this time, Jackie Mittoo was the chief studio man. The view that is being held is that Sibbles pushed Mittoo out of the business, right? Again, it was, in my opinion, a case where Sibbles had a lot of talent, and the latitude that he was given by the time he got to Studio One and was doing the level of voicing. In fact, Sibbles will tell you 3/4 of the songs that was coming out of Coxsone at the time, the thing, he was the one who was responsible for putting them together. And so, because he was writing so much, he took the opportunity to create rhythm. He laid the bass foundation, as he said. A lot of reggae music at the time was fairly easy to arrange. He said what happened is you had a formula that was working where singers would come in. First of all, they want to come to Studio One because Studio One had the cutting edge technology.
Right.
B, Studio One also had the reputation in terms of the quality material. I mean, think about it. If you are working with people like Ali Scratch Perry, who at the time, would now be looking out. But Lee Scratch Perry had laid the foundation in terms of the setup of the studio. You had a studio that had produced people like Bob Marley and the Wailers, or the Wailers at the time. People like Marcia Griffiths, Bob Andy, Alton Ellis. And you look at the range of talent that was coming out of the Studio One location. Everybody wanted to go there. And
Studio One was, as it is aptly known, foundation. They played. That's where everything kind of coalesced.
Horace Sandy made the point, and Sibbles himself agreed that Studio One was like going to high school, and then at the end of your high school period, you move to university. And if you want, you can read for a master's degree or a PhD at Studio One. That was the nature of the contribution that Studio One made. In fact, almost anybody who was anybody. We've done this program for what, 13 weeks in a row.
It's our 14th week.
And every single act or talent that we have featured over the period came from Studio One. At some point or the other, they would have passed through Studio One. And so, while the rest of the Heptones, because Llewellyn and what's his name?
Adams.
Well, no, Adams left. Adams had left and gone to the Pioneers. But the two remaining members of the group, because as I said, the group started out with 5 or 6.
We should also point out that in the mid 70s, after Sybil's left, they had other people coming like Nago Smith and
Yeah, but we're gonna touch on that in a little bit. I just want to underline for the listeners how significant it was that the role rather that Sybil's played, not just in terms of his role with the Heptones, but his role in the development of Jamaican music. Without question, he was a tower of strength at Studio One. In fact, when Coxsone decided that he was stepping back, he said Coxsone would come and whatever artists he had discovered in terms of his auditions, he said that all Coxsone wanted to do, what Coxsone was interested in doing, is listening to the players per se. Or you would ask him who you have, and coming out of that, he would then decide that, hey, all right, let's go, and we're gonna go with that one. All right, so we addressed the little glitch that we've been having.
Yes.
And listeners, again,
had to reboot the computer.
Yeah, but I think it gave me a good opportunity to provide the Blackford lecture. As far as
I was on the pulpit. I know you're on the lectern.
I'm on the lectern. All right. So a tune that came out of this was "Message from a Black Man." Again, this is Sybil's going to another level, if you will. He did some political stuff, some social commentary stuff, but tended to stay away from that. Again, it was like the group was kind of like a Dennis Brown, who never did any kind of music that would create any kind of issue.
Yeah, Message from a Black Man was also a cover version for the Temptations hit back then in 1960s. This was one of their most militant albums too, coming from the soul era. But
the thing about it though is that it's difficult to be doing Jamaican music, especially in this era, 1967 to 1969, because we also had our own social and political unrest that developed out of this period. But give a listen. Message from a Black Man, the Heptones.
Don't know what's happening here with the music today.
Still having some technical difficulties, folks. I just want to, again, use the opportunity to thank you for joining us on Sunday Scoops. And as soon as we start this out, we will be right back with you.
Let's continue giving the lecture. Let's continue talking. It wasn't necessarily going to be a talking show today. My apologies for whatever reason.
Yeah, but that's technology. I have a way sometimes that it either come with you or it tend to leave. But we want to just use the opportunity then, since we're here, And while you sort this out, God, just to kind of get people to understand what we're trying to do with the whole idea behind Yard Media is to tell the story behind our music. We feel that there are a lot of people out there who have written stuff about Jamaican music. In fact, they make the argument that if the land could have read and write, the story of the hunt would be different. What I've observed, particularly over the last 15, 20 years, is that there are a lot of people who have presented themselves as Jamaican music historians. But if you look at the background, they are from elsewhere. Now,
Yes.
I'm not knocking these people because, historical material is what it is, historical material. It would be ideal that we own our stories and we write our stories, right? What is lacking is the input from us as Jamaicans to tell our own stories. What I'd love to get from the audience is, those of you out there, is the questions that you guys have. While we address this little technical issues that we're having here, what are the questions that you guys have relative to the show we're doing today, or some of the shows that we have done in the past? I would like to invite you to give me or give us all and share with the rest of the listeners your own take as to Sunday Scoops and its role, the job that we're trying to do. Where are we in terms of that? And God is giving me a signal that He's back up, and I just want to use the opportunity to thank you for your patience. If it's Sunday, it is Sunday Scoops, and we're gonna get back to the music.
Message from a black man.
Message from a black man. Here we go.
Wrong with the sound card.
My skin is black. That's no reason to hold me back. I have wanted desires just like you. So move out of sight because I'm coming through. No matter how hard you try, you can stop me now. No matter how hard you try, you can stop me now. Yes, your skin is white, but does that make you right? This is a message to you. Together we stand.
This song in particular, when you listen to the arrangement, it closely follows the original song. It's a little bit faster, but
Temptation show.
yes,
Temptation song.
it is a very big song for them too.
Again, you have to go back to the timeline that is behind the song, because in 1968-69, Jamaica had, if you remember the Rodney, well, you're a young boy, so I don't know that thing, but Rodney riots was 1968.
Yeah.
Jamaica had a major problem where there was a big social disconnect. Jamaica became independent in 1962, and by 1964-65, the feeling was that we weren't better off. And so the government made some efforts to try to get people to sort of G up the feeling, but it never worked, because while the country was doing well economically, the benefits only
seemed to the few.
It trickled it was a trickle down approach, and it wasn't trickling fast enough. So the masses weren't benefiting. We had the 1964 big Rasta riots in Coral Gardens. The police had unleashed the Harman Barracks, which was formed, I think it was 1967, 68, and they put those police out there to brutalize poor people. So, Message for a Black Man was essentially Heptones taking that song and using it to amplify the struggles that we were having at the same time. So it was their earliest efforts at social commentary, if you will. And even though they were the ones who wrote the original lyrics, the lyrics
They
itself
adapted it.
depended
Yes. It
to what was
was
going on
apt, yes.
in Jamaica, right? Not a tune that came out of that era, Love Won't Come Easy. Again, if it's Sunday, you're in tune to Sunday Scoops. And today we're featuring the music of the Heptones. Here we go. Love Won't Come Easy.
My mama say, boy, and listen, understand. You've got to fight hard, boy, to keep your lover's hand. Mama say, love won't come easy. Don't think it's easy. Love won't come easy now. And our mama say, you've got to fight, boy, with all your might. Yeah. That is the right thing to do. Yeah. My mama say now, and listen, this is true. I keep your girl, she says, and never stopped in you. My mama say, love won't come easy. I don't think it's easy. Love won't come easy now. And our mama say, boy, you got to fight with all your might. Yeah. That is the right.
So, Heptones, again, the hit factory coming from Studio One. And here, a bunch of youngsters who just kept churning out hit after hit after hit. Another big song, well, a couple of big songs that came right behind that. Sea of Love, Pretty Looks.
Yeah, we had played all of those.
Sweet Talking. Again,
Sweet talking.
songs that were kind of setting the mood. Because the one thing that the Heptones are good at is coining lyrics that would reflect the situation at the time. Let's give a listen to Sweet Talking.
If now I say, let's go walking, come on and walk with me, and baby you will see that these words we've been talking. Come on and talk with me, and make your little heart set free. If now I say, let's go dancing, come out and dance with me, and baby you will see that these words we've been talking. Come on and talk with me, and make your little heart set free.
Just want to welcome a couple of people joining us. Joel Buyong made a couple of really nice suggestions. some of the stuff that we're looking at doing. We did ask earlier to get a feedback from our audience, in terms of direction, how they saw the show. And Mr. Mu Young made the suggestion about interviewing some of the artists, and
That
that
is
is
in the works.
definitely in the works.
As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, we had Pam Hall calling. The
Absolutely.
audio wasn't that great, but we want to revisit her when we're going to do an in-depth female section soon. So those of you who are clamoring for the females, yes, that is definitely in the works too.
We're also going to be featuring some of the producers, people behind the music. I know one of your favorite is Sonia Pottinger.
Yes.
We're definitely going to look at that. In fact, next week, we want to look at, and I can lay the foundation for that tonight, we're looking at Lee Scratch Perry. Scratch functioned in the music from multi angles, both in terms of that a producer, arranger. He was a man behind the microphone as well. But a huge swath of Jamaican music came out of the studio, Black Ark studio of Lee Scratch Perry. And so we're going to be taking a look at people like that as well. So, we ask for the suggestions and we appreciate them. We want to thank our loyal viewers and listeners who stick with us. We are still in our infancy stage, but as we grow and as you help us to grow, we can promise you one thing.
If you're watching on Facebook, please share. If you're on Yard Media, tell a friend, let them know, give them the link so they can watch too. Help us get out there.
One of us recognize Seymour Taylor. Yes, without a question. The Heptones is one of the top five.
And also thank you, Hal Anthony, for that compliment. Yes, we're trying to make it a great program every week. Let's get into some music. We have a little bit over half hour left to go. We have quite a lot of songs to play. Sorry about the technical glitch.
It
took a couple of minutes from us, but a song that we featured last week, which was a good song for me when Horace Andy did it, but when you listen to the Heptones version, it's night and day. This song is a big, 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 big song. How Can I Leave You, otherwise known as Guiding Star.
That's the original Guiding Star for me.
Now, okay.
I grew up on this tune. I remember this was my late high school years when they started to go, not party, dance. When we used to follow a song named Arrows International Hi-Fi. And when Arrows dropped this, and straight down, the middle of the dance floor empty, because right behind this, you have about a good 20 other version. And that's strictly rubber dubbed it.
And that's one of the things too with Coxon Studio One, that he'll have a hit song like this, but he'll also have 5 or 6 other artists do the same
Same
song.
song. Yep.
Yes, yes.
Because that was him taking advantage of the value of the rhythm. And again, it was for behaviors like that ultimately Heptones left. Because the feeling was that they weren't getting them just right. I'm not 100% that it was just about the money, while that was a factor. But
It's also about the treatment.
Sybil's felt that for the role that he himself had played,
He
that
wasn't
he
seeing the
wasn't
reward.
getting the recognition that he felt that he deserved. And so by 1973, he left Foxton and took the Heptones with
Yeah.
him. And they now were going from producer to producer. One of the benefit of this was a piece of work that he did with Harry J called Country Boy. And if you know Heptones, this is the Heptones getting a second win. And this is a classic. Country Boy, Heptones.
True. Everything I say, true. Everything I say, country boy. You're running up and down, country boy. You're going like you know them. You no know Bagawaya. You no know race course. You no know Pearl Harbor. No even know a light force. True.
Well, this in the countryman, so the man don't even know light posts.
No, but you can't stop the tune. The tune just to get ready.
We have
No, that was
more
a big
tune
tune,
for
but we have
God.
only. Another big tune that came out of Harry J was the tune that we used to promote this program.
And I think to date, in my humble opinion, is their biggest hit.
It is personally my most preferred Heptones tune, Book of Rules.
Now, you have to tell the listeners the history behind this song, because there's 2 components to this song.
Yeah. First of all, this song was originally adapted from a poem that was written
R.L. Sharp.
by R.L. Sharp, an American. It was a sort of a gratitude poem, if you will. And the Barry Llewellyn was the one who provided the vocals. According to the scribes, Sybil's had a cold and was unable to produce his usual voice. And so the decision was made, because they booked the studio time. Remember now, this is no longer studio one time. And so they booked studio time and they approached Barry Llewellyn to provide lead on this song. Morgan was the one who took the poem and converted it to the song. And in fact, they added a second component,
which was Glenn Campbell's country and western song, called Try a Little Kindness.
Let's give the listeners an introduction.
Isn't it strange how princesses and kings in clown daddy papers in sawdust ring, just while common people like you and me will be less for shapelessness and the book of each must make their lives flowing, a tumbling black or a stepping stone. Just right for people like you and me, will be less for eternity. Each is given a bag or two, shapelessness and the book of power, 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 power,
Now, my fondest memory of this song, the art teacher in high school named Hepburn Davis, and when we went into the classroom that morning, he played the song and then said, "Okay, draw it."
Yeah.
Yep. And my drawing was two hands coming out of the clouds with a bag of tools, and it was a big lump. That was it.
That is quite
With a
interesting.
bunch of people with their hands outstretched, reaching up to the
No,
sky.
that must you should have kept something of that piece of work because that is very, very instructive. Just want to recognize Digital Magic.
Yes,
For the
DMR
work that
Media.
they do in producing this program.
And also the wonderful hoodie that you see sitting behind my esteemed host here is one of his works, and it is available to be purchased. And those are some of the ways in which you can contribute to keeping Sunday Scoops alive and well.
Now, just want to, just following the comments, a lot of people have joined us. Book of Rules, in my humble opinion, is one of the best songs that the Heptones produced. Doesn't matter that the original lyrics didn't belong to them. In fact, a part of the song where it says, "Look when the rain is falling from the sky," because I know that the sun will be only missing for a while. Here is a song that is sending a message of hope.
Hope, yes.
Don't give up. No matter how much challenge.
Without hope, we as human beings perish.
We are nothing. We perish. And that is the significance of this song. In fact, it's one of the songs that really endeared me to the Heptones, because considering that in 1973, these youngsters, they were what, 22 now, 21, 22 years old.
They're getting into mid-20s.
To be able to put this kind of lyrical content
and
out there.
Evoke.
And even to this day, the songs still have powerful meaning.
Yes.
You need to give the listeners another little taste
of the Book of Rules. I tell you, stretching us out this evening, boy.
No,
we're not complaining. There's no complaint here.
They say that when the music is nice,
you gotta play it twice.
Isn't it strange how princesses and kings in clown daddy papers in sawdust ring, just while poetry will be less for eternity. Each is given a bag of tools, shapelessness and the book of each must make their lives flowing, a tumbling black or a stepping stone. Just right for people like you and me, will be less for eternity. Each is given a bag of tools, shapelessness and the book of
You notice the line.
Each is given.
we are the builders for eternity. It's not the big name. Former President Obama made a comment last night when he talked about people who have these big jobs and don't know what they're doing. The bottom line is that we are nothing if we are unable to work with each other. And
I
I
tell you
made a
this:
point
building builders of
earlier
tomorrow too.
about hope is a quintessential human emotion. And here is a song that represented that. It was saying, we all are nothing without hope. And if we're not prepared to work with each other, we go nowhere.
Yeah, this COVID thing has also pointed out that it is the janitors are the people who you would least expect. They're the ones who have now stepped up to being the forefront. The next song that I like is a very romantic song. Again, was done and one of my favorite reggae songs. There ain't nobody else. And I'm a romantic at heart. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I know I'm a romantic at heart.
Love me always.
Love me always. Nobody else. Love, darling, please understand that I wanna be your lover man. To keep it down, you will ain't nobody else, baby. Please let me stand by you, and no one will make you blue. Darling, I need you. There ain't nobody else, baby, but you. Darling, I need you. Oh, I love you, yeah. Baby, I need you to be mine. Love me all. Oh, baby, yeah, yeah, yeah. There ain't nobody else.
Now, that is your favorite tune. Again, you can't talk about the Heptones without recognizing that here is a group of youngsters who, in terms of their ability to put hits out, they were in a league by themselves. It's interesting that as the years, the 70s drew to a close, that the group split up because by now Sybil's realized that for all the music that he was putting out here in Jamaica with the group, really wasn't getting
Yeah,
anywhere.
move
And
to move to
he
Canada.
moved to Canada where he attempted to pursue a solo career. But we want to just keep the focus on the trio as a group. There were a couple of other really great songs that they put out. Here's another tune, Love Won't Come Easy. Again, this was a 1976 effort. Sybils had gone away and returned. The group went on a little hiatus in terms of putting songs out while he was away. I think
And we had played Love Won't Come Easy, but one of the other songs that they did was Mama Say.
Mama said.
Mama Say.
Mama say, son, I ain't got no food today. Tit for tat, butter for fish. There's a little porridge in the dish. Mama say, son, got to stay home today. There's a hole in the roof. You've got to make it waterproof. Son,
All of
daddy left you from.
This was 1976. If you remember what was happening in Jamaica in 1976, the politics had now started to come to a head. Michael Manley had chased out the American ambassador to Jamaica a couple of years earlier. and the squeeze started to come down on Jamaica. The economic
Yes,
squeeze.
there's a
OPEC oil prices,
went through the
the
roof.
thing, price of oil went through the roof, and by this time now, the crawling peg devaluation that we were experiencing had become a galloping horse
Yes,
devaluation.
yeah. I
And
remember that
so
clearly
the Jamaican dollar started to depreciate
at an
dramatically,
alarming rate.
and we were now up the creek. This song was a song that was now recognizing the frustration that people were feeling. And if you come from that mid 1970s period, this is how, again, we
But
talk about Jamaican music, talking about the things that
and
we
if
were
you want to know
experiencing.
what's happening in Jamaica, you listen
Listen
to
to
the
the
music.
music.
But one of the some of the austerity that we faced between 1976 and 1980 was also self-inflicted by local businessmen who hoarded and hid the goods. It's not that it wasn't even available. They hid it just so they could go against Michael Manley. A lot of them took their money and they moved down to Homestead area and all of that down here in Florida. And then retribution came to them in 1992 when Andrew came and wiped out the water
Again,
down there. But
societies are like that, and it's hard. Hindsight is always 2020. But the fact is, back home, while they were, you know, getting away, so to speak, back home the pressure was on, and Jamaican singers, writers of songs, and composers of music use the art to
say what they were
immortalize
experiencing.
the experiences that we're having. And essentially, we
Mama
can now
said.
look back at it either from a nostalgic standpoint, or we use it as a teaching tool. But this was the period. And this is what Heptones was doing. 1976, you have to run back that tune. Mama say, there's some porridge in the pot. Put it on the fire, make it hot. Listen to the tune.
I've got to struggle cause I am poor. She said, food is a very hard thing to find. Sometimes I feel like I'm going out of my mind. Mama said, son, today looks like a rainy day, but the food I ain't got enough. Rain or fall, but dirty stuff, mama said, son, I ain't got no food today. Tit for tat, butter for fish. Here's a little porridge in the dish. Daddy left you from you were four. Yeah.
Wicked tune. I tell you, if you want to know what was going on in Jamaica at a given point in time, you have to listen to the music, because these youngsters recognize their role. That is no longer about singing the pretty songs. You borrow the lyrics from overseas.
Also in Jamaica, we also coin words to express different things. And one of the words in the 70s was sufferer.
Sufferer.
And here's a song that they did called Sufferer's Time.
Time is slipping away, and I don't get tired yet. Feel it time, this a sufferer's time. Feel it time, children, feel it time, this a sufferer's time. Time for sufferers drive big car, time for sufferers bear big shot. Time for sufferers drive big car, time for sufferers bear big shot.
That's a time for sufferers drive big car, time for sufferers wear big shot.
inspirational. Actually aspirational, if you will. But it's basically saying that we have the same ambition like everybody else, and so that essentially that's what the message from the music was all about. This was now I Shall Be Released. Wanna touch that song? This was originally a Bob Dylan song, and one of our viewers made the point. I think it's Joel who made the argument that raised the point that this song was, in his view, just as good as Book of Rules. Let's give it a listen. Big tune.
They say everything can be replaced. They say every distance is a moon. Yeah, but I remember everything of every man who put me. Yeah, I see the light come shine from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Yeah, they say
One of the other songs that came out in that time, that back in the Rocksteady days, was another song, big song. Why must I?
Oh,
Why
why
must
must
I?
I live this life
Why must
alone?
I?
Wanna big up my sister who is joining. I haven't seen her on this program. Margaret Hadley. Welcome.
Welcome.
Also,
Also, wanna welcome Tarsia Moore. Tarsia is always a big fan of this program and not afraid to keep us in line. Also, want to big up,
right?
right?
Want to
Want to
also
also
big
big
up
up
Wayne
Wayne
Migraine
Migraine of
Hussein.
Sin.
And
And
again,
again,
wanna
wanna
big up
big
my
up my
friend,
friend,
Farmer
Farmer
George, and
George,
all
and
the
all the
listeners.
listeners, all the viewers, everywhere you are in the world. If it's Sunday, Mixlr.com.
On
And if it's
Sunday,
Sunday,
Sunday
Sunday
Scoops.
it's Sunday
Big
Scoops.
up Dimitri from Paris.
I know you look forward to this program every Sunday. Next song is Why Must I Live This Life Alone? 1967.
Each day is so hard. Please help me, Lord. I just can't stand the strain. No, each day is just the same. Tears fall down like rain, and I can't stand the pain. Why must I live this life alone? Why must I live this life alone? Yeah. Everyone is having fun, but I am having none. What in this world can I do? Yeah. I try the best I can to let them understand that I'm only a man. Yeah, but I can't seem to find someone with a peace of mind, someone who is true and kind. Why must I live this life alone?
Yeah, and one of the other songs that the Heptones were inspired by the Impressions with what's the lead singer again? I know Jerry Butler was a part of the Impressions, but also Curtis Mayfield
Curtis Mayfield.
and the Harmonies. And one of the songs that they did a cover version of the Impressions, I've Been Trying.
Well, again, most of
Most
the
of the
music
music
that
that
came
came
out
out
of
of
that
that
1960s
1960s
era.
era,
In
in
fact,
fact,
the
the
whole
whole
idea
idea
of
of
groups
groups
were
were
formulated
formulated
around the
around the
same
same
principle
principle
that
that
the
the
music
music
coming out
coming
of
out of
Motown,
Motown,
coming
coming
out
out
of
of
North
North
America
America
generally
generally
in the
in the
1960s were
1960s were
groups,
groups,
the
the
doo-wop,
doo-wop,
you know, approach
approach
to
to
representing the
representing the
music.
music.
And
And
so
so
Jamaicans
Jamaicans
followed the
followed the
same
same
line.
line.
The
The
Wailers
Wailers
Tight
was a
was a
group,
group
harmonies. Yeah,
with
with
tight
Harmon.
harmonies, yeah, man.
everybody
Everybody
went
went
down
down
that
that
road.
road.
Um,
Um,
it
it
just
just
so
so
happened
happened
that
that
in the
in the
personage
personage
of a
of a
Leroy
Leroy
Sibbles,
Sibbles,
you have
you
a
have a
dominant
dominant
lead.
lead.
But
But
they
they
still
still
did
did
well
well
in
in
bouncing their
bouncing their
harmonies
harmonies
around.
around.
And at
And at
different
different
points in
points
time,
in
they
time, they
demonstrated that
demonstrated that
individuals
individuals
in the
in the
group,
group,
other
other
individuals
individuals
other
other
than
than
Sibbles
Sibbles
could lead.
could lead.
But
But
let's
let's
give a
give a
listen.
listen.
I've been
I've
trying.
been trying.
I've been trying.
Yeah, the man them sound like the impressions when
You have to
they
play that
sound
over. You
like the
have to.
impressions. Trust me.
I've been trying. Lord knows that I've been trying. Understand why. Understand why. Can I be alone tonight? You said you love me. So sincere that I believed you love me. Yet I can't understand why. Understand why. Can I be alone
All I'm pull up. Because
You know
you
that
know that
Sibbles
Sibbles
wasn't
wasn't
singing on
singing
the
on
show,
this tune,
right?
right?
This
This
was
was
during that
during that
period that
period in
Sibbles,
Sibbles, because Sibbles
left the
left the
group
group
twice
twice
and
and
returned
returned
after his
after his
efforts.
efforts.
Never
Never
really
really
produced the
produced the
fruit he
fruit
was
he was
looking
looking
for.
for.
But
But
this was
this
the
was the
group
group
without
without
Sibbles with
Sibbles with
Llewellyn
Llewellyn
leading.
leading.
And
And
I
I
would
would
say
say
that
that
they
they
did
did
very
very
well.
well.
That's yeah. Another big songs at the time too was "Get in the Groove."
Yes.
That was a song that we couldn't leave this evening without playing this song.
music, it's so divine. It's yours and it's mine. Come on and sing with me. It makes you so happy. It gets you in the groove, makes your whole body move. Yourself you can control, just when you get the soul.
All of a sudden we run out of time. It's amazing how
Time
time
when
fly when you're having a good time. But
One of the other songs that I want to present before we wrap up for the afternoon is "Street of Gold."
yes, yes.
I had a vision
This song was done by the Gladiators
Right.
under another title called Roots Natty. Don't give up. But when we was talking about earlier about some of the melodies being taken from this beginning, an introversion to this was taken from a fistful of dollars from that.
Oh, you mean the
Yes,
dollar series movement?
yes. And also, what the guy named Montenegro? He did that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Good, and the Bad, and the Ugly. Yes,
Hugo Martin.
yes. Back from the top, Streets of Gold. But the other version is known as Roots.
I had a vision last night that I was walking on a street of pure gold. This street that I saw, it's where I should have been. Not until we stand and fight for. Dreadlocks, the time is now. Stand up, fight for your right. Cause you ain't gonna get your culture, man. Roots natty, don't give up, oh no.
Just want to remind the listeners that are on our old school rules radio mixing that Carly Hitman Marshall will be up at 4 p.m. Yes, Richie, you were saying now.
Well, a lot of the things with first of all that Hugo Montenegro, the Montenegro, uh, what you call sampling, if you will.
That
That
was
was
possible
possible
early
because
songs.
in those early years we never had the copyright thing, um, and so it gave our music creators a little bit more latitude, license, if you will, to do. In fact, that's why so many of them sampled a lot of these foreign songs. You couldn't do that
Cover version.
today, or did covers. In fact, if you remember, that was what got Joe Gibbs into trouble with what's her name.
And Johnny Mathis and
It
Cynthia
was it
Sloss.
was no, it wasn't Cynthia Scott. But the point is, we never had the rigorous copyright rules that would
Came
apply
about in the
as we got
90s.
into the late mid 80s 90s when the copyright thing was now in place. But without question, Heptones is the belly of Jamaican music. The transition into reggae from Rocksteady, they gave, in fact, prior to prior to the Heptones, the Rocksteady era was all Duke Reed. Duke Reed not only surrounded himself with a number of heavyweights, but he also had a pretty good band. By this time, Lin Tate and the Jets would have been the studio band, but and then he also had people like the Techniques, the Uniques. By the time Slim Smith had left and they formed the Uniques, they were doing a lot of their work with 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 Duke Reed as well. Leroy Sibbles and the Heptones took back the title and brought it squarely down at Coxon Place. And so you can't write them out of the music thing. The bottom line to is that as the music segue into reggae, their dominance and thing. You made the argument. That's what eventually became their undoing. There was a point at which, as the music transited in the mid to late 70s, you are now dealing with the dancehall. And the Heptones with their fancy steps and the soul boy thing, eventually that had started to wane. By now, the fear was what was being offered was the dreadlocks thing, and nobody from the Heptones was no dreadlocks, and so eventually they just petered out into obscurity. But not before. They left us with another nice tune, in my opinion, Mystery Babylon.
Just we're at the end of another program. Next week, join us. We'll be featuring Lee Scratch Perry.
B. Scratch Perry.
To
Lock
those
on.
of you who are missing our old school hosts, thank you again for listening. You know, have Hitman Marshall company. Once again, Walgreens, have a
Check
good
out the
afternoon.
website.
Check out the website, yaadmedia.com, YAAWD Media. And thanks for DMR. Big up yourself. My name is Garth, otherwise known as Big G.
My name is Richie Blackford.
Mrs. Griffiths would have been very proud of.